Hi, it's Nick here with another edition of If I Can Do It, You Can Do It Too. It's been a while since our last episode, but I thought we'd try this one a little bit different. It's a slideshow, it's not a movie, we'll move really quickly, but the whole point here is to build a basement arcade, and that's what we've got slides on. The goal? To turn this ugly, empty, unfinished basement space into this, I think, pretty nice looking arcade/game room. Well, it all starts off with design, and the first thing we had to do was come up with a plan. Got the measuring tape out, made some measurements of that unfinished area, went online, got some free CAD software, and figured out what the square footage of everything was, made a few adjustments, and came up with a plan that would look something like this. Now, this is very rudimentary, but we started with accurate dimensions and real square footage, and I got to tell you, the materials we bought just the right based on these numbers here. And the first thing we've got to do is frame it up. There wasn't much framing, frankly. The back room was pretty much half drywalled already, but we'll take a look again. This is again what we saw. We had to make a divider at the back of this picture. I'll use my mouse to break off what we call the furnace room and then make the front. There's also a closet area, so there's the wall started to divide it. It's a 4-foot door. We're going to use bifolds there. We also had to block in all the ductwork, etc., box it all in, and put a closet in the far end, opposite end, where there was an alcove, and that used to be where our freezer was. And once the framing was done, we moved directly into electrical. A couple of new circuits went in. Mostly just some plugs. We're putting in a bunch of arcade games, so I want to make sure I had enough wall plugs in it. And we also want to put in LED lights, pot lights in the ceiling. Just flat LED pop lights that don't draw much. I also wanted to make sure we were using some Z-Wave light switches, and really nothing to it. That's the electrical. Once the electrical done, then the hateful job of drywalling. Now, I've never been very good at drywall. So we started off with the sheets up and down as opposed to side because frankly I didn't have many walls that were more than 8, 9, 10 feet long, and it just worked out easier for me to do it this way because I'm not a professional. And you can see we just started adding drywall and more drywall until it was all drywalled, and it turned out looking okay. But what comes after drywall is the most hateful job, mud. And I am terrible at this. But we've stuck it through and got the mud on the wall. And then I enroll my painter, Julie, because I don't paint. So she started priming everything. And at the end of the day, it turned out much better than I thought that it would. But it was all primed and good to go and ready for her to add color. And so Julie brought out the brushes and found some colors, and she went with a darker gray. You'll notice there's one wall that's white. That wall between the furnace room and the arcade room is white, and I'll show you why in a minute. But she continued to paint all of two coats, I think it took, and it ended up looking pretty good. I'll just move myself out of the way here for a minute. You can see that was the finished product. Now, like I said, I don't paint. So Julie took over the garage and got all the trim painted and all the doors painted and everything painted. I just really hate painting. That one wall that she didn't paint was going to be a feature wall. And this is an interesting thing. I went out and got the cheapest laminate flooring that I could get and just started putting it on the walls. Nails and glue, and up she went. No problem. Looks good. We decided also to put the same flooring, or wall covering we'll call it now, on the bulkhead around the furnace ductwork, and it turned out very nice. The whole project is starting to shape up. Setting us up for ceilings, and we'll talk a minute about this product that I got. A friend of mine sent me a Pinterest link to this stuff. It's made by Armstrong. It's called Woodhaven Ceiling Planks. It's tongue and groove. It goes up with clips. You can screw the clips directly to some framework if it's on 2-foot centers. And that's what the bulkhead ended up looking like when that stuff was, the clips are screwed right to the strapping. But what makes it really special is that you can also hang it from a suspended ceiling. So you start the installation of a suspended ceiling, and this is the suspended ceiling going in the main room. And then you start hanging this stuff with really special clips that they provide. No screws, and you just start putting in the ceiling. And when it's all done, it's a suspended ceiling, but it does not look like a suspended ceiling because it's hanging from the gridwork as opposed to having acoustic tiles slipped into the gridwork. And I mean, it really turned out well. But we have to pause because there's a back room, the furnace room. And we'll just quickly run through what happened back there because we wanted to make sure that it was tidy and clean as well. So I know you saw in that very first picture there was some of this particle board, and I used it, and I used whatever drywall I had because on this side we really didn't care. We painted it white so you really can't see it. And put in a traditional suspended ceiling. Had to hide that beam, so I used the beam. I brought the ceiling down to that height of the beam so that it kind of merged right in. Painted the bottom of it white. Put in the rest of the ceiling. Put in the same kind of pot lights. Move things around. This was a trick. I saw online how to box in your window using just the framework, some rivets and a snipping tool. And it actually turned out pretty good. The room turned out nice. The ceiling turned out nice. It's white. And then came time for flooring. I wasn't going to spend big bucks on flooring, so we used some peel and press. They say you have to prime the concrete first, is what we did with peel and press primer. Let it dry. And then Julie and I both started laying down this peel and press, peel and stick flooring. And it was no effort at all. It was done in a day. We put in some resin shelves for storage when we go to Costco. We replaced our cube freezer that was way at the other end of the basement with this stand-up upright freezer. White isn't exactly white. Look at that old fridge. It's all yellow. It needed to be cleaned, but it's still never going to be this white. But the room turned out very nice, and I was pretty happy with it when it was all said and done. But now we move back into the main room, the arcade room, and we talk about the flooring there. Here's where we did spend a little more money on the flooring. So once we got the back room done, everything painted, ceiling in, cleaned up this room completely, got everything out of it. Don't even want to talk what's behind that door you see. That's our fruit cellar, and it's become a giant storage facility, which I have no pictures of. It's just shelves, shelves, shelves. But it was time to lay flooring. The flooring we chose to use was at Home Depot, and it's called LifeProof. It's pretty thick. It's 7 mil thick. It has an underpad, but it does have, I recommend using over concrete this other little very thin underpad that is like an accordion sheet that folds out and has nice grid work on it so you can actually see where you're going. This is click and lock flooring, just like wood plank flooring, but it's vinyl click and lock tiles, and it looks like ceramic tiles. And as you progress, the room really started to shape up and look different. I just didn't want wood looking floor. I wanted something that looked like, I don't know, marble or ceramics or something. And at the end of the day, for a vinyl floor, it turned out really super. Once the flooring is in, you got to trim it out. And this is the part I'm really not good at. I'm a bit of a hack. But what do they say? Something about a carpenter, if you can't make it good, just make it look good with DAP and caulking. That's what we did. So we started off with some baseboards and trim. Well, first we had to frame in the doors. You're right. First the doors. And I didn't want to do traditional 90 to 45 degree corners around the doors because I would make them look really poor. So did it this way with kind of a header and a lintel kind of a look, and with a little bit of a base plate. They call that a plinth block. And we found all of this at Home Depot. And, with just that circular cutoff saw, I was able to make the miters that we needed. And again, lots of putty, lots of dope, lots of caulking to make and lots of shoe trim at the bottom. And we just kept putting trim up until all the doors and everything was trimmed out, and it really turned out looking pretty exceptional. My opinion, but it turned out okay. Now, once you got a room, you got to put all the pieces in, and here's what we started with. We started with a pool table. It's not a high dollar one. It's not a slate bottom. It's just a wood one. It's mostly particle board. Heavy as hell, even though it's just particle board. And some arcade games. Tracy, our daughter, got us the Sebastian Games Room neon light for the far end of the wall. And these are the first two games. Wheel of Fortune, because it's Julie's favorite, and the Legends Pinball 4K machine, their newest one. It's the Addams Family Edition. And you can see there's the pool table. Here's another shot of the pool table with the two games that had arrived. And then we had to start adding little things like you can see in this picture right underneath the sign. There's like a floating shelf. Well, that, of course, is a bar rail, because you know there's going to be cocktails happening. Don't want them on the games or on the pool table, so you got to have some place for drinks to go. You also need some place for the TV to go, so we put a floating TV shelf in, because what's going in that spot is PS5. Excuse me. So there's the Addams Family game. There is the racing seat for the PS5 and the racing sim. And those are now the other two games. So the At Games Legends Ultimate Arcade and the Golden Tee 3D game. Those are the four arcades there that are in that corner. You have little few things. My buddy Paul gave us that nice pool billiards thing, and we had to put a rack up for the sticks. And this is the way it all turned out. So this is the finished product, and it was ready for Easter. Good Friday, we had everybody over. All the kids enjoyed it. They were downstairs playing, racing, yelling, screaming. It was good. Everybody enjoyed themselves. There's the bank of arcades. There's the PS5 with the racing sim. It's the Logitech G923, which is apparently their newest, not expensive one. And then a $120 racing seat and a sim thing to hold it all, with PS5 and a TV. Most of this stuff bought on points. You guys are close above it. It's just a lot of fun, that game. And that's a pretty nice looking seat for $120 at Amazon. And that's the room, filled up with arcades, and the finished product is right there. Now, I'm going to show you a morphing video of from the start to the end, from the same angle at the door as you enter the room. That's the raw room. There's the room that's been framed and drywalled. The next shot is of it framed, drywalled, and primed. The next shot, I'm sure you'll see some paint and the feature wall and the ceilings. Then the flooring goes in. Next up is the trim. And then the parts start going in, like the pool table, till we get to the finished product with all the arcade games. Now here's a little morph shot from the beginning to the end. Empty basement morphs into arcade and games room. So, all in all, I think the project was a success, and I'll tell you this, if I can do it, you could do it too.